You don't have to go anywhere just yet. You don't have to do anything at all. Whatever the day has asked of you, whatever it has taken or left behind, you can set it down now, gently, the way you might set down something heavy you've been carrying for a long time without quite noticing the weight. Just let it rest there beside you. It will still be there in the morning if you need it, but for now, for this quiet stretch of time, there is nothing required of you. Find the position that feels most like belonging. Shift your shoulders, let them soften toward whatever is beneath you. Feel the weight of your body being held, fully held, by the surface below. You don't have to hold yourself up. You never have to hold yourself up here. Take a breath in through your nose, slow and unhurried, and let it fill you all the way down to the place just behind your ribs. Hold it for just a moment, not straining, just letting it settle, and then release it through your mouth, long and soft, like fog rolling across open water. Again, if you like, breathe in, slow, and out, slower still. Good. In a few moments, you'll find yourself somewhere very peaceful, a place that has existed for longer than memory, tended by patient hands, held between the sea and the fog and the faint luminous glow of ancient water. A place where nothing is urgent, where time moves the way water moves in a still pool, which is to say, it barely moves at all. You are going there now. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. Let your breath continue its slow, natural rhythm, and simply listen. Let the story carry you. The fog comes first. You are aware of it before anything else, a soft, enveloping presence, cool against your face, carrying with it the smell of open water and old salt, and something faintly green, like moss, that has grown undisturbed on stone for decades. The fog doesn't arrive the way weather arrives. It doesn't rush or announce itself. It simply deepens the way dusk deepens, the way sleep deepens, gradually, without a clear moment when one thing becomes another. One breath it was only a haze on the horizon, and now it is here, low and thick and gentle, pressing softly against the world, the way a hand presses softly against a closed door. You are standing at the top of a long, gradual slope of coastal shelf, ancient rock, worn smooth by centuries of tide, the color of old pewter in the faded light. The stone beneath your feet is slightly damp, not slick, just yielding enough to feel alive. You can feel the coolness of it through the soles of your shoes, rising up through your ankles, a pleasant mineral chill that grounds you, settles you, makes you feel exactly as solid and present as you are. The light here is dim and diffuse, the kind of light that doesn't come from any single source. There is, somewhere behind the fog, the faint memory of a moon, not visible, but present the way a sleeping person is present in a room, their warmth and breath changing the air without being seen. The fog holds this moonlight in suspension, distributing it evenly so that everything glows very softly. The wet stone, the scattered shells, the still surfaces of the pools, each one carrying its own faint luminescence, its own quiet argument for beauty. And the pools. They are arranged along the shelf in a long, loose chain, following the natural contours of the rock, some deep enough to swallow your arm to the elbow, some shallow enough that the creatures living within them could see the fog if they chose to look up. Each pool is distinct. Each has its own color, its own character, its own particular quality of stillness. The first one you notice is teal, a deep, layered teal, the color of the sea in a dream of the sea, neither green nor blue, but something between the two that has no name in ordinary language. The water in this pool is so still that you can see the bottom clearly despite the depth. Pale sand, a few small stones, a cluster of anemones with their soft arms extended, swaying almost imperceptibly in some current too gentle to feel. And beneath the surface, threading through the water in long, slow ribbons, there is light. Blue-violet light, the color of the last moment before full dark, pulsing at the rhythm of something slower than a heartbeat. A long, slow brightening, and then a long, slow dimming, over and over, patient and continuous. You stand at the edge of this pool for a long moment and simply breathe. The smell of the place settles around you more fully now that you are still, low tide and sea wrack, that green mineral scent of living rock, and underneath it, faintly, unexpectedly, the warm, dry smell of cedar. You will come to understand that cedar smell. It belongs to the keeper's coat. But first, the sound. Somewhere beyond the fog, the ocean is moving. You know this because the ocean is always moving. But the fog has done something remarkable to the sound of it, has pressed it down, softened it, stretched it out until it no longer sounds like surf. It sounds instead like breathing. Long, slow inhalations, a low hush that builds almost imperceptibly, then releases, then builds again. You could fall asleep to that sound. You could fall asleep to that sound very easily. It asks nothing of you. It simply continues, as it has always continued, as it will always continue, with or without your attention. And beneath that sound, closer, more intimate, the soft, irregular drip of water, a ladle lifting and returning, the small musical sound of water rejoining water. That is when you see the keeper. The keeper is moving along the far edge of the amber pool, the second large pool in the chain, perhaps 30 feet from where you stand, bent slightly at the waist, working with the careful, unhurried attention of someone who has done this so many times that the work has become a kind of meditation. The waxed canvas coat is the color of old leaves, dark green-brown, stiff at the shoulders and soft at the elbows from years of use. The collar is turned up, and the coat's hem falls to mid-calf, and the whole garment has that slightly sculptural quality of canvas that has been wet and dried and wet again many times, shaped by weather and habit into something almost architectural. The cedar smell, you understand now, comes from the coat itself, or from whatever oil has been worked into the canvas to keep the water out. Cedar and sea wrack and something else, something mineral, like old iron left in the rain. In one hand, the keeper holds a long-handled brush, horsehair from the look of it, the bristles soft enough for careful work. The keeper draws the brush in long, slow strokes along the pool's rim, clearing the salt crust that forms there each day as the tide retreats and the water evaporates in thin, shimmering films. The sound it makes, that soft scratch of horsehair against wet stone, is the quietest sound you have ever heard and also somehow the most present. It fills the space between the fog and the pools the way a single candle fills a dark room, not flooding it with light, just making the darkness more clearly itself. In the keeper's other hand is a small lantern, copper by the look of it, fogged with condensation on its glass panels, so that the flame within appears not as a flame but as a soft gold coin of light, warm and wavering, casting almost no shadow and instead simply glowing the way a coal glows after the fire has gone quiet. The keeper does not look up as you approach. This is not rudeness. It is simply that the keeper is attending to the pool, and the pool at this moment requires attention. You understand this without being told. You settle into it easily, the way you settle into a warm room after coming in from the cold, not thinking about it, just allowing the warmth to be what it is. You come to stand at the near edge of the amber pool and look down. The amber color is not uniform. It moves through the water in layers, deepest at the center, warming toward gold near the edges where the stone is pale. It is the color of honey held up to a window, the color of old varnish on old wood, the color of late afternoon light caught in a jar. And in this pool, too, there is the bioluminescence, not the blue-violet ribbons of the Teal pool, but something warmer here, slower, more like embers, small points of amber gold light drifting in loose constellations through the water, rising and falling by some internal logic, gathering and dispersing. You watch them for a long time. The keeper finishes the near edge of the pool and moves to the far end, drawing the brush in the same long, slow strokes, scratch, pause, and you find that you have begun to breathe in time with those strokes without meaning to. In with the stroke, out with the pause, in, slow, out, slower. After a while, the keeper reaches into the deep pocket of the waxed canvas coat and withdraws something small, a glass chime hanging from a length of cord so fine it is nearly invisible. The chime itself is no larger than a closed fist, a teardrop shape of pale green glass, and it makes no sound yet. It hangs still in the keeper's hand, waiting. The keeper kneels at the pool's edge, unhurried, careful, and lowers the chime into the amber water on its cord, hand over hand, letting it descend slowly through the layers of color until it rests just above the sandy bottom. And then, a sound. Not a ring, exactly, not quite a tone, something between the two, a resonance, a harmonic that seems to come from the water itself rather than the glass, as though the pool has been waiting to speak and the chime has simply given it permission. A long, slow hum, felt as much as heard, vibrating somewhere in the middle of your chest, and then fading, until the silence that follows feels richer than the silence before. The keeper listens to this fading for a long moment, head slightly tilted, expression entirely peaceful. Then draws the chime back up, hand over hand, and holds it above the pool to let it drip, that small musical sound of water returning to water before tucking it back into the coat's deep pocket. From the other pocket, the keeper produces a ledger. The ledger is small, no larger than a hand, and its cover is dark with absorbed moisture, the leather soft and yielding, the corners worn round. The keeper opens it carefully, the way you open something you value, and turns to a page near the middle. The paper inside is waterlogged at the edges, not wet exactly, just carrying the memory of moisture, slightly thickened, slightly soft. You can see from where you stand that the page is covered in small, careful handwriting, line after line, and that the ink has bled very slightly into the dampened fibers, giving each letter a soft, feathered edge, as though the words themselves are slowly becoming part of the page. The keeper makes a note. The pencil moves slowly, deliberately, each letter formed with attention. Then the ledger is closed, tucked back into the coat, and the keeper rises and moves on to the next pool. You follow, a little behind, a little to the side, unhurried. The shelf stretches ahead of you into the fog. How far, it is impossible to say. The fog absorbs distance the way it absorbs sound, softening it, making it irrelevant. There could be 10 more pools, or 100. It doesn't matter. There is no destination tonight. There is only the next pool, and the one after that, and the slow, patient work of the brush and the chime and the ledger. The stone beneath your feet is steady and cool. The cedar and salt smell moves with you, wrapping around you as you walk, and underneath it, always, that faint mineral note, old iron in the rain, something ancient and unhurried. The fog presses softly against your face and hands, not cold enough to be unpleasant, just present, just reminding you that the world is larger than you can see tonight and that this is perfectly fine. The distant surf continues its slow, muffled breathing, in, long and low, out, longer still. The third pool is the violet one, deep purple-blue, the color of bruised plums or of shadows under deep water. It is the largest pool you have seen so far, nearly circular, its edges worn into smooth curves by the patient attention of centuries of tides. The bioluminescence here is different again, not ribbons, not drifting points, but a slow, diffuse glow that seems to come from the walls of the pool itself, from the rock below the waterline, as though the stone has absorbed so much light over so many years that it has learned to produce its own. You stand at the edge of this pool and feel for a moment as though you are standing at the edge of something vast, not frightening, not vertiginous, just immense. The way you feel when you look up at a clear night sky and understand, without thinking about it, that the darkness between the stars is not empty. The keeper comes to stand beside you. For a moment, neither of you moves. The violet light pulses slowly beneath the water, that long brightening, that long dimming, and the fog settles a little lower, and the sound of the surf is barely distinguishable now from silence. Just the faintest hush, just the memory of breath. Then the keeper kneels and begins the work of the brush. The salt crust here is thicker than at the other pools. There must be something in this pool's particular chemistry, some quality of the water or the rock that leaves more behind when it evaporates. The keeper works slowly along the rim, the horsehair brush making its soft, rhythmic scratch against the stone. Scratch, pause, clearing the white crust away in long, curving strokes, revealing the dark, wet stone beneath. You sit down cross-legged at the pool's near edge. The stone is cool beneath you and slightly damp, and it holds you solidly, and you find that you are comfortable in a way that goes beyond physical comfort, comfortable in the way that a place feels when it is simply right. When there is nowhere else you need to be and nothing else you need to do, and the world has contracted to this pool and this fog and this slow scratching of a brush and the dim violet light moving beneath the surface. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, you breathe. The keeper works around the entire rim of the violet pool, methodical and unhurried, and you watch the bioluminescence as the work proceeds. The slow pulse continues, brighten, dim, brighten, dim. It is the same rhythm as the surf, you realize, or perhaps the surf has always been following this rhythm, has always been setting its breathing by these ancient organisms in their ancient pool. It seems entirely possible. Nothing here seems impossible. When the rim is clean, the keeper takes the copper ladle from the other deep pocket of the waxed canvas coat. You hadn't noticed it there before, but of course it was always there, and leans carefully over the pool's edge to skim the surface film. The ladle moves in slow, careful arcs, gathering the thin silvery membrane that is formed at the top of the water and lifting it away, and as it lifts, the water left behind is clearer, more luminous, the violet light more distinct. The sound of the ladle, a soft, liquid scooping, and then the muffled drip as it returns the water to the pool just beside the pool's edge, a small, private sound, a sound for no one in particular. Drip. Drip. The keeper skims the surface 3 times, 4 times, each stroke slower than the last, and then sets the ladle down on the stone beside the pool and opens the ledger again. The pencil moves in its slow, careful way. You can hear, very faintly, the small scratch of it against the dampened page, a sound almost identical to the brush on the stone, just smaller, just more intimate. You watch the keeper write and think about nothing at all. This is a remarkable thing, to think about nothing at all. Most of the time, even when you want to, there are thoughts, small urgent ones, half-formed ones, lists and worries and replays of things said and unsaid. But here, at the edge of the violet pool in the fog-softened dark, with the bioluminescence pulsing slowly beneath you and the surf barely audible beyond the shelf, your mind has gone quiet in the way that a room goes quiet when the last person has left it. Gently, completely, without announcement, you let it stay that way. After a while, time moves loosely here. You are learning this. The keeper closes the ledger and stands and moves northward along the shelf toward the next pool. You rise and follow, and as you do, you notice something you hadn't seen before. Near the edge of the amber pool, which you pass again on your way northward, a small arrangement on the stone. A crab no larger than your palm has been at work. It has gathered fragments of shell, the pale curved shards that litter the shelf, and arranged them in a rough spiral near the pool's eastern rim. The spiral is imprecise, as spirals made by small claws must be, but it is unmistakably intentional, or it feels intentional, which may be the same thing. The largest fragment at the center, the smaller ones arranged outward in a gentle curve like a galaxy seen from very far away. The keeper pauses beside this arrangement for a moment, kneels, examines it with the same quiet attention brought to everything else, does not touch it, simply looks and then opens the ledger and makes a note. The crab itself is somewhere nearby. You can see it now, tucked into a crevice at the pool's edge, its eyes on small stalks angled upward, watching. It does not seem alarmed. It seems, if anything, like something that has accomplished what it set out to accomplish and is now resting in the satisfaction of a task completed. You understand this feeling. The keeper finishes the note, closes the ledger, and moves on. The crab retreats a little deeper into its crevice. The amber light pulses on in the pool above the spiral, indifferent and beautiful. There are more pools northward, a pale green one, shallow and wide, carpeted with sea moss so dense it looks like a meadow seen from above. The bioluminescence here is the faintest of all, just a suggestion of light, a shimmer at the edges of things, like the afterimage left when you look away from a candle. The keeper works this pool more briefly, the brush moving in shorter strokes, the ladle skimming only once. The chime, when lowered into this shallow water, produces a sound higher and lighter than the amber pool's deep hum, almost like a small bell struck very softly, fading quickly into the sound of the surf. There is a pool the color of old glass, that greenish clear of sea glass, worn smooth, holding the light in a way that makes it look solid. There is a pool so dark it seems to have no bottom, though you can see, if you look carefully, the slow movement of something large and unhurried in its depths, not frightening, just present, just going about its patient existence far below the surface. There is a very small pool, no larger than a basin, tucked into a crack in the rock, and this one holds no bioluminescence at all, just clear, still water reflecting the fog above it, so that looking into it is like looking at the sky. The keeper visits each one, the brush, the ladle, the chime, the ledger, the soft scratch of horsehair on wet stone, the muffled drip of water returning to water, the fading resonance of glass submerged and singing, and always, always the fog, pressing softly against everything, muffling the distant surf into that slow, perpetual breathing, holding the lantern's light close and warm, turning the gold of the flame into a diffuse amber glow that barely reaches the edges of the pool nearest the keeper's hand. You walk beside the keeper now, closer than before, comfortable in the shared quiet. The cedar and salt smell is familiar to you now. You have stopped noticing it consciously and have simply incorporated it the way you incorporate the smell of your own home, the way you incorporate the sound of rain when you have been listening to it long enough. It is just the smell of this place. It is just the smell of being here. Your feet are steady on the cool, wet stone. Your breath is slow and even. Your hands are relaxed at your sides. At some point, you could not say when exactly, the keeper pauses between pools and simply stands, not looking at anything in particular, not doing anything, just standing in the fog with the lantern held low, the light catching the moisture in the air and turning it to a faint golden haze. The waxed canvas coat is beaded with condensation, tiny droplets clinging to every surface, each one holding a miniature reflection of the lantern flame so that the keeper appears to be wearing a coat covered in small private fires. You stand too. The surf breathes, in, long and low, out, longer still. Somewhere across the shelf, invisible in the fog, a pool pulses its slow blue-violet light. You can see the faintest suggestion of it, a dim brightening and dimming in the fog itself, as though the fog is alive. The keeper looks at you then, briefly, without particular meaning, and the expression is so entirely peaceful, so entirely free of urgency, that you feel something in your chest ease, as though you had been holding your breath without knowing it and have only now been given permission to let it go. You let it go. A long, slow exhale. The fog receives it without comment. After a while, the keeper moves on, and you follow. And there is a place on the shelf, farther along than you have yet gone, where the stone widens into a kind of natural terrace, a flat expanse of rock perhaps 20 feet across, bordered on 3 sides by the chain of pools, and on the 4th by a low ridge of stone that blocks the wind and makes the air here particularly still. In the center of this terrace, the keeper has established a small camp of sorts. Nothing elaborate, a flat stone that serves as a table, with a few items arranged on it, a cloth bag, a small tin, a battered copper cup. Near the low ridge, a second lantern, unlit, waiting. And along the ridge itself, the keeper's other tools, a second brush, larger than the first, a coil of rope so fine it looks like braided hair, a collection of small glass chimes in various sizes, arranged by size along a flat ledge in the stone, each one a slightly different shade, pale green to amber to clear. You look at these objects with the quiet pleasure of looking at things that are exactly what they are, things that have been chosen for use and have been used, things that bear the marks of many long, patient nights. The keeper sets the lantern on the flat stone and begins to prepare something from the cloth bag, moving slowly, deliberately, with the same careful attention brought to everything else. The bag contains a small parcel wrapped in cloth. You can smell it even from a few feet away, something warm and faintly sweet, bread or something like bread, with the additional smell of dried herbs, something dry and medicinal and pleasant. And from the tin, a loose-leaf tea that smells of the sea and of something darker, like roasted grain. The keeper produces a small spirit stove from somewhere, a compact, efficient thing, well worn, and sets the copper cup over its flame and adds a careful measure of water from a flask at the coat's hip. The water heats slowly. You watch the tiny flame. The cedar and salt smell mingles now with the smell of the tea and the bread, and the combination is so particular, so entirely itself, that you feel you would recognize this smell anywhere, even in a dream. Especially in a dream. While the water heats, the keeper sits on the low ridge and takes up the ledger again. This time, instead of a brief note, the keeper seems to be reading back through previous pages, turning them slowly, one by one, the dampened paper making a soft, quiet sound as each page turns. The expression is unhurried and content, the way you look when you read something you have read before and love, not searching for anything, just moving through familiar territory for the pleasure of it. You sit nearby on the cool stone of the terrace. The stone is solid beneath you, steady, and you settle into it gratefully. Your back finds the low ridge and leans against it, and the stone takes your weight entirely, and you are aware for a moment of how good it feels to be supported, how good it feels to have something solid at your back. The water in the copper cup begins to release a faint thread of steam. The keeper notices this without looking up from the ledger, some peripheral awareness registering the change, and reaches over to add the tea without breaking the rhythm of reading. The steam intensifies, carrying the roasted grain smell into the still air of the terrace, and the small flame of the spirit stove casts a warm circle of light that, together with the lantern, makes this corner of the shelf feel like an interior, like a room, though it has no walls or roof, only the fog above and the dark stone around it. You feel, sitting here, that you are inside something. Not enclosed, not confined, just held, contained by the fog and the pools and the slow breathing of the distant surf, held by the warmth of the two small lights and the smell of cedar and tea and sea wrack, held the way a cupped hand holds water, loosely, tenderly, with no intention of keeping it. The keeper pours the tea into the cup and wraps both hands around it. A long, slow sip, a small sound of contentment, not quite a hum, just a breath released with satisfaction. The bread is unwrapped next, and broken carefully in half, and one half is set on the flat stone in a gesture that is unmistakably an offering, set there for you without ceremony or instruction. You take it. It is dense and slightly sweet, with the texture of something that has been made with care and not hurried, and the dried herbs in it are subtle, just a suggestion of something aromatic at the back of the throat. You eat slowly, unhurriedly, tasting each bite. The surf breathes, the lantern glows, the pools pulse slowly in the dark beyond the terrace. After the meal, there is a long, comfortable quiet. The keeper refills the copper cup and holds it again, both hands, no hurry, and looks out into the fog in the direction of the pools. You follow the keeper's gaze, though there is nothing specific to see, just the fog and the dim suggestion of the bioluminescent light within it, that slow blue-violet brightening and dimming that continues with or without anyone watching. The rhythm of it, you notice, has slowed even further, or perhaps you have simply slowed enough to perceive it more accurately. Either way, the pulse is very long now, a brightening that takes the length of a full breath to reach its peak, and then a dimming that takes the length of another full breath to reach its trough. Breathe in, and the light grows. Breathe out, and the light recedes. You breathe in. The light grows. You breathe out. The light recedes. Again, in, slow. The light brightening. Out, slower. The light dimming. You continue this for a while, or perhaps the light is continuing it and you are simply following. It is impossible to say which is leading and which is following, and it doesn't matter at all. In time, in that loose, unhurried time of this place, the keeper rises and begins to prepare for the second half of the night's work. The spirit stove is extinguished, the cup rinsed with a small amount of water from the flask and set to drain on the flat stone. The ledger is opened one more time, and a longer note made. You can see the pencil moving in its slow, careful strokes, covering half a page, the letters small and even and unhurried. The keeper pauses once in the middle of writing, looks up at nothing in particular, seems to be listening for something, and then, apparently satisfied, returns to the page. The second lantern on the ridge is lit from the first, a small, careful procedure, the flame transferred from one glass chamber to another, and then both lanterns burning side by side for a moment, their light combining into something warm enough to push the fog back just a few feet further than before. Then the second lantern is extinguished, its purpose fulfilled. It was simply being checked, you understand, being verified. A small ritual of maintenance, like all the others. The keeper takes up the large brush, the second one, from the ridge, and sets off northward again, back into the fog, back toward the pools. You follow. Of course you follow. The pools in the northern section of the shelf are older, you sense, or perhaps just more deeply settled into their particular characters. The stone around them is worn to an even greater smoothness, the edges of the pools themselves almost perfectly curved, as though the water and the rock have been in conversation for so long that they have each become a little more like the other. There is a starfish in the amber pool. Not where it was before. The keeper pauses and makes a careful note in the ledger, and you understand from this pause, from the slight tilt of the head, that the starfish has moved. 3 pools northward from its last recorded position, the keeper will write, though you cannot read the small, careful letters from here. The starfish itself is motionless at the pool's edge, one arm extended slightly toward the water surface, its orange-red color muted by the amber light of the pool. It seems entirely content. It seems, in fact, like a creature that has arrived exactly where it intended to arrive after a journey of precisely the right length. You watch it for a while. It does not move. It is very good at being still. You are learning to be very good at being still, too. The keeper works the northern pools with the same patient attention, brush, ladle, chime, ledger, but the pace is slower now than it was at the beginning of the night. The strokes of the brush are longer, with more time between them. The chime is left in each pool a little longer before being retrieved, and its fading resonance is given more time to fully fade before the keeper moves on. The notes in the ledger are shorter, a word or two, sometimes just a symbol, something private and sufficient. The lantern's condensation has thickened over the course of the night. The flame within it is barely visible now, just that soft gold coin of light, diffuse and warm, more glow than illumination. It is enough. The bioluminescence of the pools provides the rest, and you have become so accustomed to moving in this gentle, layered dark that it no longer feels like darkness at all. It feels like a different kind of light, softer, more patient, illuminating things from within rather than from without. The fog has settled to its lowest point of the night. It lies so thick and still on the shelf that you can feel it against your skin, cool, faintly damp, carrying its layered smells, cedar and salt and iron and green, the whole vocabulary of this place compressed into the air itself. The surf beyond the shelf is so muffled now that it has become indistinguishable from your own breathing. You can no longer tell the difference between the sound of the ocean and the sound of your own slow exhale. This is fine. This is more than fine. There is a moment, somewhere in the deep quiet of the night's middle, when the keeper sits down at the edge of the violet pool, not to work, not to make a note, just to sit, cross-legged at the pool's rim, the lantern set on the stone nearby, the brush resting across both knees, looking into the violet water, watching the slow, diffuse glow of the rock below the waterline, that patient brightening and dimming that has been happening since long before either of you arrived and will continue long after. You sit beside the keeper, close enough to share the lantern's warmth, which is small but real. The cool weight of the night air settles around your shoulders like a garment. The stone beneath you is a steady, familiar presence, cool and solid and unhurried. The cedar smell is very close now, warm and dry against the sea-damp air. You look into the violet pool. The light moves, slower. The brush on the keeper's knees is still. The ledger is tucked away. The ladle rests in the coat's deep pocket, and the chimes rest in theirs, and there is nothing to do and nowhere to go and no note to make. Just the pool, just the light, just the slow, muffled breathing of the world. After a very long time, the keeper's head dips slightly, not falling asleep, just settling, just letting the weight of the night collect in the neck and shoulders and be acknowledged. You feel the same thing in your own body, that pleasant heaviness, that particular quality of tiredness that is not distress, but its opposite, not depletion, but completion. The feeling of a thing done well. The feeling of a long, quiet night, faithfully kept. Eventually, the keeper rises, slowly, with care, and continues along the shelf. But the work now is different, less purposeful, more wandering. The keeper moves from pool to pool without the brush, without the ladle, pausing at each one just long enough to look into the water, to observe the light, to register the particular quality of this pool on this night. A kind of reading, a kind of listening. You move alongside, a little behind, and you do the same. You look into the teal pool and see the blue-violet ribbons moving through the water in their slow, unhurried way, neither faster nor slower than they were hours ago, utterly indifferent to the passage of time. You look into the amber pool and see the drifting constellations of gold light, and you see the starfish at the pool's edge, unchanged. You look into the violet pool from a distance now, and its glow is the same as it has always been, patient, diffuse, emanating from the rock itself. The small pool, shaped like a basin, reflects the fog above it, and the fog is very slightly lighter than it was, not dawn, nowhere near dawn, but the subtle change that happens in the deepest part of the night when the dark begins, almost imperceptibly, to consider receding. The keeper sees this too. Pauses at the basin pool and looks into its reflected sky for a long moment, and then looks up at the fog itself, and then back down, and the expression is one of simple recognition. The night is doing what nights do. Everything is exactly as it should be. There is one more thing to do before the night's work is truly finished. The keeper returns to the terrace, that natural room of flat stone and low ridge, and sits again on the ridge and opens the ledger one final time. The pencil moves for several minutes slowly, filling the remaining space on the page and perhaps beginning the next one. You cannot see what is written. You don't need to see what is written. It is enough to hear the small, quiet scratch of the pencil against the dampened paper, that intimate, careful sound, so much like the brush on stone, so much like everything else here, a sound of patient attention, of faithful recording, of one night's worth of small and unremarkable wonders being set down in a place where they will be kept. The ledger is closed. The keeper holds it for a moment, both hands, the way you hold something you value, and then tucks it back into the coat's inner pocket, close to the body, where it will stay warm. The lantern's flame has burned very low. The gold coin of light is barely a shimmer now, a suggestion of warmth rather than warmth itself. The keeper does not refuel it. The night is nearly done, and the pools will tend themselves until the next one begins. They always have. You sit on the terrace long after the keeper has moved away into the fog. You are not sure exactly when the keeper left. There was no departure exactly, just a gradual fading, the waxed canvas coat and the lantern and the cedar smell receding slowly into the thick gray air until they were simply gone. Not absent exactly, just no longer visible. The pools remain. The violet light pulses its slow pulse. The amber constellations drift. The teal ribbons move through their deep water, unhurried, continuous. The surf breathes. You are very comfortable here on the cool stone. Your back is against the low ridge, and your hands are in your lap, and the fog is very close and very soft, and the smells of cedar and salt and old iron and green moss are all around you like a room. You are very warm despite the cool air. You are very still. Your eyes, if they were open, would be heavy. Let them close. Let the pools continue their slow work without you watching. They don't need to be watched. They have been here for centuries, and they will be here still. The starfish will move at its own pace. The crab's spiral will remain near the amber pool's edge. The keeper's ledger will hold tonight's notes safely in its dampened pages. You don't need to watch any of it. You just need to be here. And you are. You are here, on the cool stone, in the fog, with the sound of the sea all around you, that slow, muffled breathing, in and out, and the bioluminescence pulsing gently beyond your closed eyes. Blue-violet, slow, brightening, dimming. The cedar smell is still here. Faint now, just a thread of it in the cool air. Just enough to be familiar, just enough to be home. The surf breathes in, long, slow, and out, longer, slower. Somewhere in the fog, a glass chime is resting at the bottom of a still pool. Its resonance faded hours ago, but the water remembers it, holds the frequency of it in the way that water holds everything, patiently, without judgment, for as long as is needed. The stone beneath you holds you. The fog holds the stone. The sea holds the fog, and all of it holds you. Your breath is very slow now. In, out. The violet light pulses once, brightens, dims. The sound of the brush on stone is very far away, or perhaps it is close and you are simply moving further from it. It doesn't matter. The sound continues, soft, steady, scratch, pause. The amber pool drifts its small lights. The teal pool holds its ribbons. The violet pool breathes its slow old light into the fog. You are very still, very warm, very held. The surf, just the surf. In, out. The cedar smell, very faint. The cool stone. The fog. The light. Slow. Blue. Violet. Still, the pools tend themselves. They always have. You are somewhere very quiet now. Somewhere very safe. The fog holds everything. The sea breathes. In. Out. Slow. Still. The light. Dimming. Dim.